So for today's video, what I tried to do was to show you what's inside Pegasus 35 after 270 miles, but I severely underestimated how difficult this would be. I've spent the last 3 hours trying to deconstruct one of my Pegasus 35 shoes, or a pair that I have retired, just so I could see what the Zoom Air Pocket really look like after all this time, because I've been saying that I feel like they're near the end of life, if not at the end of life. At that 270 mile mark, definitely by 300, I want to have a different pair of shoes. And I even went on a little bit of a run last weekend after I'd run them through the washing machine, just to make sure that they were still something that you could run on. And they indeed were, but I felt how very thin and worn out the shoe was in the forefoot, and I wanted to feel what that was like. Also, a lot of times what you guys will ask me when I do, say, like a 100-mile review, especially with the Zoom Pegasus, is how does the air pocket feel? They don't feel that kind of bubble or that pop, not pop, but like that spring that the Zoom Air Pocket gives. So I wanted to be able to do that. So I took a knife towards my Zoom Pegasus. First, I took out the insole, and then I just started cutting. I took off the upper, and then attached to that was a piece of foam. This was what was directly underneath the insole, and eventually I got to this. It's not pretty. I'm not particularly skilled in terms of taking things apart well, and for some reason I thought that once I got to this point, this would just kind of pop out. But the Zoom Air Pocket is like inextricably molded to the Cushlon foam that's in here. And so after hours of battling this thing, my hands are essentially just claws now. I can't really do anything with them because I've been like trying to, you know how it is when you try to like grip and rip something open for a long time, your hands just kind of get stuck. That's where I'm at now. And to add kind of insult to injury, I am able to look at a little bit of the Zoom Air Pocket myself, but I don't think I have the right kind of cameras to really show you what's going on in the Zoom Air Pocket. I don't have a macro lens, so I don't think I'll be able to show it to you anyway. But here are some of the takeaways that I am able to get from this. The amount of Cushlon foam that seems to be back here is gigantic. I mean, what you're seeing is what you're getting. Now, there's a little bit of a cup in terms of how it lets your heel like sit in the shoe, but you're still getting a substantial amount of Cushlon foam in the heel area, but in the forefoot you're getting extremely little. Now here, I've been trying to take out this Zoom Air Pocket, and a lot of the Cushlon foam is coming up with it, but essentially when I'm pushing through on the bottom here on the Cushlon, there's almost nothing in between the Cushlon in the forefoot and at least on the outside and on the inside. And so I think that what's going on is a combination of two things. I can see when I squeeze the Zoom Air Pocket, it does its Zoom Air thing. And I'm just putting, a forefinger and a thumb's worth of pressure on it, not my full body weight. And so it's not quite the same. But what I can see is when it does push down, it releases and springs back up just like the Zoom Air does. If you don't know exactly what that looks like and want to get a much closer look, I'll try to get you a closer look. But if you don't know already, check out a review of the Zoom All-Out Lows. Jami Michaels has a really good video on how that works, and so that will give you a pretty good look at that. I'll post a link in the description for what the Zoom Air looks like. But also, I can feel that I can very easily squish the Zoom Air Pocket all the way down with just a couple of fingers, although it does come right back up. But also, I think that a lot of the wear or like the kind of worn out feeling that I'm getting is because the Cushlon in the forefoot is just wearing thin. And so I'm not exactly sure how much it starts out with, but over time, I just feel like the foam is compressing and it's not that it's wearing away, because it's not something that's, there's friction on the outside too. It'd be more a matter of compression than it would be a matter of friction. And so I do think that the Cushlon is, I want to say wearing thin, but compressing thin, and it doesn't have as much of an ability to absorb the shock of, or the impact of my foot hitting the ground. So that's just kind of my hypothesis. I don't really have any metric in terms of way of being able to test it. What I'm trying to figure out is how thick really is that zoom air. Now, when you look at the zoom all out low, it gives you the impression that the zoom air pocket that you're getting, the full length zoom air pocket that you're getting in the Pegasus 35 is that tall. I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think that the zoom air in here is a lot thinner than what you might think if you've seen the zoom all out low. And that also might explain why people that run in the zoom all out low say it feels so squishy and unstable, is because the zoom air pocket's maybe too big. But this gives me a little bit of an idea of just what I'm working with in terms of the zoom air pocket. I'm going to keep working on this. This is definitely a fail. I got to the point where, I was trying to be ginger about it and pull it up gently and pull back any of the foam that was attached. And then about like 3 hours into the endeavor, I was just kind of just stepping on it with one end and trying to rip it out with the other. Neither seemed to be working. Whatever adhesive they're using to put this zoom air pocket into this Cushlon outsole or midsole is just undefeatable. And so I'm going to keep working on it. But in terms of the video that I'm making for today, my attempts were certainly a fail. Hopefully I can get you guys a little bit more info on just what the zoom air pocket looks like after the 270 miles that I've put on this shoe. And we could take another look at it later, but I'm just not that optimistic. If you have any questions about what I did or comments or suggestions at this point, feel free to leave them in the comments. I love to have just any direction, any help at all. I would love to hear from you guys. Thanks for watching today's video, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?